and welcome to Talk a Good Game. And tonight it's a double show. It's a review and preview. We'll be reviewing the West Ham United 1-0 win over Wolves in the third round of the FA Cup. As the road to victory begins, I'm welcomed by two hammerschat.com regulars. Remember, I've got Gonzo. Gonzo, good evening.
Good evening, sir.
You good?
Yeah, just back from the game. Trains took a little bit longer than usual today.
And I've got someone else just back from the game as well. You haven't seen him for a while, but he is from hammerschat.com. Tom, good evening. You all fine?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. Yeah, good evening.
Yeah, not too bad. Like myself, like many other thousands of people out there, could not find a stream today because it didn't exist, so I had to put up with the radio. Fortunately, we've got these two to chat to and find out about the game as well, and that's what I'll be doing tonight. But you won't hear any opinions from me about the game because I wasn't there. Anyway, but Chris, talk us through the game. What did you make of it?
Well, it was quite clear from the outset that whilst it was a relatively strong team, he was saving some for Tuesday. So it was very hard to argue with the starting lineup, though. To be fair, because whenever you've got Collins and Reed at the back, some might argue that was our strongest pairing. At the very start, Wolves came on strong. Really, it's their cup final. Probably their biggest game of the season, I would imagine. They came on strong. The good lad, Afobe, I think his name wasn't playing up front. I believe he might be signing for Bournemouth. So they came on strong. They really went at it for the first 10 minutes, and then they didn't threaten us very much. And then really it was all us. And you can go into it later on in the show if you want about individual performances. But we were a much better team.
Yeah, I've got 3 or 4 players I want to ask you two about. Tom, Jenkinson, did he impress you? He's one player I was hoping would have a good game when I seen him in the starting lineup. How did he do, Tom?
Oh, it was awful. There's no easy way to say it. Really, he put himself under a lot of pressure. I mean, simple clearances, just get your head on the ball, but he let it go over him, and the player got in behind him on a couple of occasions, And the guy next to me said to me, "He is absolutely awful," and I said, "Well." But yeah, he wasn't very good today.
That's not the best thing to hear. He didn't sound that bad on the radio actually, but you don't get anywhere near the full picture. Gonzo, today we start with 3 centre midfielders again, which we discussed before. Does not work. It sounded like it wasn't working today, but what did you make of the 3 individuals' performance, particularly Song and Obiang?
Well, I'll tell you, but I'm really interested about the fact that the guy next to Tom said that was absolutely awful. I'll wager he said something a little bit stronger than that, but it sounds very well-mannered, Tom, the bloke sitting next to you. The bloke sitting next to me said something completely different. In terms of the 3 that were in the middle, Obiang was by far the best today. I was very, very impressed. That's the best I've seen him. Really good. Everything he did, he was running, tackling, passing. He played with a real intelligence today, and did all the simple things really, really well, and outshone Noble and Song, whose passing, both of those guys, their passing was off today. Particularly Song, I was very, very disappointed with him today.
He didn't sound like he came off too well, going by the commentary I had, but they made on Noble played quite well actually, and they were oohing and ahhing over a couple of his defence splitting passes, as they called it, to play Jenkinson and Creswell. Tom, Mr. Jelic finally got a goal for us. He hasn't been gratefully received by West Ham fans. Do you think their opinions will change of him after the game, or was he poor overall? Because I don't really remember hearing his name mentioned until he scored.
No, that's it. I mean, the only thing he contributed to the game was actually scoring a belting goal. I mean, it felt. I don't know how it fell to him. I think it was luck, Gonzo, wasn't it? I think it was luck. The ball fell to him. I don't.
Well, from what I saw, I had. Funny enough, I pretty much had your usual seat, Tom. It actually came from Obiang. Obiang had played the initial ball in, and it went into Carroll, and from Carroll. It then fell to Jelic, who finished it very, very well. But I mean, he'd pretty much miscontrolled, hadn't won a header all game. It was a pretty poor performance up until that point.
The goals the highlights are on the BBC website already. By the time you've watched this, Match of the Day would have been on already, but the highlights are on the BBC website. It was a decent pass by Carroll actually, and a decent finish by Jelic. Last question before you two guys. Tom, who's your man of the match today?
I think they got it right with Reed. If it wasn't Reed, it'd be Obiang. But Collins also had a good game. But in the priority order, it went Reed, Obiang, and then Collins.
Gonzo, do you agree with that?
No, probably the other way round. Not totally disagree. Obiang, for me, they didn't threaten enough one of our central defenders to be named man of the match, and just Obiang, as I said, for all the reasons that I said before, very, very good. But just before we leave, what I would also like to say with what Bilic did today, I think his plan worked. He clearly thought, I'm going to play a slightly lesser team, and then if we're struggling, I'll bring on some players and change the game. And he really did, and it was quite clear that Payet was the best player that any of those Wolves players had ever played against. When Payet and Carroll came on, they were a standard above anything that Wolves had, and it did result in the win.
Yeah, well, I'm going to be asking you about Mr. Andy Carroll later on in the show, Gonzo. The draw for the 4th round is at 7 p.m. on BBC One, and we'll see who we pick up with that with the weekend of the 30th when the 4th round goes ahead. Now, Bournemouth did us a favour today, actually, by putting in a bid for Afobe, and that's obviously why he was in the team today. He needs to be registered, I believe, by noon on Monday to play for us again Tuesday night. So the transfer has to go through and be signed off by Monday at noon, else he's ineligible for Bournemouth. However, the one player they do have is Auturbe on loan from Roma. Gonzo, do you know much about him, or do you think he's a bit like a FIFA name that people think, oh, he's good, but they've never actually seen him?
I think you're exactly right. And funny enough, it's exactly what my friend Marcus had said to me, that actually he's in his West Ham team on FIFA, so he must be okay. How much stock we place by that, I don't know. But I understand. I think the thing is with Bournemouth, I think they've agreed to get him on loan for the rest of the season with a view to sign him for 16 million. Afobe is going to be signed for 10 million, I think. So they're not mucking around. They're really trying to spend some money now, but I think he's an Argentinian international, or at least he played for the under-21s, and they've labelled him the next person to be labelled the new Messi, which I think there's been about 10 new Messis, and really we're still stuck with the old one who's miles better than anybody else. But clearly the boy would have some talent.
Tom, what do you make of Bournemouth's performance in the Premier League so far then? They sit 4 points away from 18th position. Obviously they had that injury crisis. They've still got Mings, Wilson and Gradle out injured, but they're on good form. I'll tell you their form in a minute, Tom, but what do you think about their Premier League debut?
No, I mean, they've been a revelation, haven't they, really? They're one of the teams I really want to do well, really. I mean, personally, they've done it all properly. 4 or 5 years ago, they was playing in the bottom tier, or towards the bottom. So it's one of them stories that gives every sort of club down the bottom a sort of like hope, that they're going to come up and they can do it. And yeah, I mean, with regards to their form, yeah, I think there was a few games ago, I think they were playing Man United, Chelsea, and actually picked up 9 points out of 9, didn't they? And it's fully deserved, really. They're a good team, So, and they've had a few injuries, but no, I like Bournemouth.
Gonzo, what's your thoughts? Does Eddie Howe impress you, Gonzo? Coming up to the Premier League, saying, "I'm not throwing my blueprint away. I'm keeping my blueprint that I've had that's worked wonders so far." He stuck to it. They were struggling, but they are coming back. I'll tell you their form after. I want to hear your opinions first before this changes your mind. What's your thoughts, Gonzo?
Yeah, well, it's a club I know a little bit about because I actually lived down there for 2 or 3 years. So they're a good club, a very likeable club. Eddie Howe's a very likeable guy, and for all the reasons that Tom said, you do want them to go well. Eddie Howe started off at Bournemouth very, very well. He then went to Burnley, and it didn't go so well for him. But he's one of those guys where perhaps he left Burnley too early, and it's one of those situations where Dyche came in and he almost took the fruits of Eddie Howe's labour, and they've flourished ever since. But it was really Eddie Howe that put in the groundwork, and he's gone back to Bournemouth now, which is a club he's very comfortable with, the surroundings he's comfortable with, and he and his assistant, I think they've just done an absolutely tremendous job, albeit they've spent a lot of money.
Yeah, well, we're going to talk about our team in the first, but the Bournemouth stats that you need to know, they've only got 1 defeat in their last 9 games, which came 2-0 away to Arsenal, so they're in fantastic form. At home, they've had 2 defeats in their last 6, which was Spurs and Newcastle, but they are unbeaten in their last 3 games, and one of them was a win over Manchester United, as Tom said there. Before we talk about West Ham, though, we will be back later this weekend with a transfer show. We're not going to be talking about who's coming in and who's going, because we're not expected to do a lot of business. We're going to be talking about who we want to go and who we want to come and how much we've set for certain players. I'll be putting some of the members of hammerschat.com on the line. Also, do please come on our social media on Twitter at @hammers_chat. Remember that _ there's a crapper version of Hammers Chat on Twitter. Don't go follow them by mistake. Stick with us. And on Facebook.com/ Hammers Chat. And most importantly, do subscribe. We've got loads of new content coming our way. Gonzo's got a new show coming as well in conjunction with Karen Hugh, and you do not want to miss it because it's looking like an absolute belter. Tuesday night, of course, we'll be back with a review of the Bournemouth game, which we're chatting about now, and we've got a face that you'll all recognise, and there's a competition courtesy of our guest as well, so don't miss that. Anyway, let's talk West Ham, Tom. Unbeaten in 8, won the last 3 in a row, 5 clean sheets out of 7. Are you confident going? Well, you're going down to Bournemouth yourself. Are you confident?
Yeah, I'm confident, but it's going to be very, very tough. I mean, for some reason, we seem to turn up for the. No respect to Bournemouth, we seem to turn up for the big teams and not so much the little teams, you know. But Bournemouth, they fully deserved, obviously, we know, to be in the Premier. And I don't think we should be complacent and go there and think, you know, we're as you said, 8 unbeaten. We've got to go there to win, you know. And a draw would be a good result or a win. But yeah, I'm expecting a draw personally.
Gonzo, team selection. Andy Carroll will start up front. You're not his biggest fan. Over the last few games, is he starting to persuade you that he can actually be the key man up front for West Ham?
No, because I think Sacco's the key man for West Ham up front. I still think we need another striker. But he's certainly grown on me a lot more. He looks a lot fitter than he was, and he looks like he's able to scare defences. You wouldn't have seen it today, and you probably won't see it on any match-of-day highlights. There was a point today where he dribbled past 3 players and went on an amazing run, and then flicked it to Payet with the outside of his foot. I thought, you know, he was sort of trying to do an impression of Ronaldo or something. So I do think he's getting fitter. He looks leaner. He's a slimmer Andy Carroll this year, and I'll still maintain that I'd like to keep him, and as an impact sub, he's going to be a real threat to people. Probably worth noting that I think Bournemouth today actually rested all bar 1 of the players that started their last game, so they're right up for Tuesday.
Yeah, Tom, going into the Bournemouth game, who do you want to see in the centre midfield? You just praised Obiang. I think we generally agree 3 centre midfielders do not work, unless you have a different opinion to us, obviously. So essentially, you've got 4 centre midfielders of very, very good quality. 2 spots. Tom, what are you doing if you're Bilic?
Well, as Gonzo already mentioned, Song didn't have a fantastic game today, and I know everyone's saying that he's coming back to match fitness, but how many games does it take for him to get back to match fitness? I mean, you've got to ask that question, really, and some of his passing was awful. So on today's performance, I would personally drop Song, but Noble, Obiang, and Payet in the middle.
No, but obviously you're going to have Payet, but who are you going to have along? You're going to have Kouyaté and Obiang. Is that who you would have in centre midfield?
No, I'd probably put Noble and Obiang in there because I don't think obviously he's going to start Noble because he's our captain, isn't he? So I would want Kouyaté myself, yes, yeah. But I think he's going to put Obiang and Noble in the middle.
Gonzo, what are you hoping he does in the centre midfield?
Well, I'll tell you what I think he meant to do today. I don't think Bilic thought Obiang was going to play that well. I think he played a few players today thinking, okay, I'm going to almost, you know, run them into exhaustion so as I can save other players. I think Obiang was one of those guys, and obviously he has saved Kouyaté. So I think it's really given him a real conundrum. But bearing in mind he didn't take him off after 60 minutes, it might be possibly a bit of a big arse to let him play as ferociously as he did today and then play 90 minutes. I would hope that any manager will pick on form. And I'll tell you what, after today, and you know me, Song's one of my favourites, so I've got no agenda. For me today, you cannot drop Obiang. You can't.
But what about Mark Noble, Gonzo? Because Mark Noble against Liverpool was arguably man of the match. The second half against Southampton, he was one of our best players on the pitch. Obviously, I haven't seen today, but I would argue that Mark Noble was in a formation that, again, we all know just doesn't suit having 3 in the middle there. So, do you not think maybe it's time for Kouyaté to miss out? Because he hasn't exactly been on form those last few games, has he?
I think you need a tackler. You know that. I always think you need a tackler and an athlete in there. So he's got to be in there. Noble found himself wide of that 3 today. A lot of the time he'd be sort of near Jenkinson and swinging crosses in. And one of the guys near me, he said he's not comfortable there, is he? And I think he was right. He wasn't as bad as Song today, Noble. So yeah, maybe I'm not saying Noble shouldn't be in. I just think Obiang. For definite, you know.
Tom, who's our main man? Would you risk Payet for the whole game, Tom, on Tuesday night? Because we are obviously playing Newcastle away on Saturday. We're talking about match fitness. We know he's not 100% fit. Do you risk him on Tuesday? Do you keep him on the bench as a backup like we've done the last couple of games?
Well, I mean, both the games are away, aren't they? Bournemouth and Newcastle, so they're both tough games, you know. And you can't. I don't think Bilic can go thinking, oh, he's got to think, oh, I've got a team that can actually go. I think he's got to play Payet, yeah, because I mean, as Gonzo said, when he come on, you know, and it just sort of created chances, you know. People were making runs because they knew Payet had the ball. I don't ask me why they wasn't doing it when Payet wasn't on the pitch, but when he's on the pitch, you can see people reacting to him, you know. So and. Yeah, I would want him to play on Tuesday.
Well, do come on to hammerschat.com, give your opinion. Do you want to see Payet play? Should we risk him? Do we keep him on the bench and hope that the team that's out do the business and we don't have to risk him for so long and keep him for Newcastle? Comment below as well. The referee, again, for Tuesday night, my favourite one, Martin Atkinson. I'm delighted to see him back. He's my favourite referee in the Premier League. It actually gives me confidence when I see him as our referee. He reffed the West Brom game at Upton Park and when we beat Arsenal away as well. I think he's one of the best referees there is. So I'm happy to see him as the referee. Gonzo, are you confident? Before I ask you this, we haven't won away in our last 5 games, and we've only won 1 of our last 8 away games. Now, people are saying we're the best away team in the league, blah, blah, blah. To me, myth. I don't think we are. I think we're set up to play away from home. 1 win in away doesn't, in all competitions, it includes the Leicester Cup game, and the win was against Palace. But 1 win in 8 does not make you a fantastic away side. Bear in mind, we've only played 11 away games this season. Are you confident, Gonzo?
Well, I'm not confident winning. I'm confident we'll get a draw against Bournemouth. I think we're very, very hard to score against. I mean, I think Wolves today thought they were going to come and sort of batter us into submission. You know, we'd beat us sort of old Premier League prima donnas and they'd work hard and they'd break us down. No, I mean, we're resolute and strong in defence. So, but Bournemouth have got their qualities, as we said. So, I'm confident of a draw. That's what I'm confident of. I don't think we'll concede.
Well, it's time for these guys to put their necks on the line before we disappear. Tom, score prediction, please.
As Gonzo said, it's going to be very, very tight. We're not. If we do concede, it's going to be 1. So I think it's going to be 1-1.
Gonzo, score prediction, please.
Oh, as you probably guessed from what I just said, I'm going for a 0-0.
Well, I'm going for a 1-1 as well. So that's 3 of us saying draw. Not many goals. But if you disagree, let us know. Comment below or come on to hammerschat.com. Click on forum. 100% free to join up. So come join in with us. There'll be a match stream link in there as well, so you're wanting to watch the game, do pop along, and you will see our faces back at halftime live discussing the first 45 minutes from Bournemouth. But thank you for joining us, and we've been hammerschat.com.